You want the truth made usable, not inspirational. Here it is, undiluted and pointed toward the only outcome that matters. You becoming the kind of person money returns to on schedule. You've been told money rewards fairness, effort, goodness. It doesn't. It rewards composure that other people can feel, cadence they can rely on, and positioning that channels their energy into your account without noise. The rest, talent, luck, even brilliance, only matters insofar as it creates those three conditions. Start with Machiavelli, because money is a politics of nerves long before it's a spreadsheet. He wrote for princes, but he wrote about you, the person who must act when the weather is ugly, who must hold a straight face when the room wants you to blink. Virtue is not charm, it's the ability to do the next correct thing without trembling. Fortuna is the part of the day that won't obey you. Appearances are the only thing anyone else can buy. No one gets to live inside your character, they only get the surface, tone, cadence, the proof you bring and the promises you keep. Please notice what this implies. Wealth accrues not to the most talented, but to the person whose surface reliably lowers other people's heart rate. It's ugly, but it's true. Now put Machiavelli's composure next to Kahneman and Tversky. They dissected the animal hidden inside your tie: loss aversion, anchoring, availability. A small loss hurts like a larger gain feels good. The first number you hear drags your judgment. The last, disaster, you saw on a screen feels nearer and heavier than it is. You won't out-argue any of that. The only fix is design. You write your rules when your pulse is slow, position size, fee floors, when to walk away, what to say when someone tries to expand scope just a bit, and then you obey those rules in the heat. Otherwise, cortisol makes your decisions for you and calls it prudence. Thaler would smile at this, because you are exactly the sort of creature who needs a nudge, the version of you that defaults to auto-saving, auto-investing, auto-renewing cadence with clients will beat the version who intends to be disciplined when things calm down. We live by defaults. Make the right behaviors automatic and make the wrong ones a hassle. Install friction between yourself and any one-click behavior you regret later: trading, tweeting, conceding. Remove friction from the acts that compound: sending the weekly proof, asking for the budget calmly, logging outcomes that survive audit. Across the table, Cialdini is already weighing the air. People decide first on cues: authority, social proof, reciprocity, scarcity, consistency, liking, and then backfill reasons that make them feel adult. You don't need to manipulate anyone. You need to arrange the room so that the obvious thing happens. Authority is not a trophy on the wall. It's your voice not rushing and your documents not wobbling. Social proof is not applause. It's a forwardable case study that makes a nervous executive feel safe. Reciprocity is not a gimmick. It's the small tool you give away that saves them 20 minutes on Friday. Scarcity is not theater. It's your calendar being real. Consistency is not sloganeering. It's the same snapshot, same day, every week until trust becomes muscle memory. Liking is not charm. It's the felt sense that you won't waste them. If we widen the frame to risk, Taleb taps his pen on the table. First rule, don't die. Never take exposures that can kill you, professionally, financially, reputationally. Protect the core that keeps you standing: runway, reputation, repeatable work that arrives without you shouting. Around that you place small convex bets, the kind that can't sink you and might change your year. When markets or moods go manic, remember, survival compounds, heroics don't. Respect the tail risks you can't see. Be boring in the middle and adventurous at the edges. The person who is hard to break inevitably becomes the person who looks lucky. Morgan Housel would translate this into ordinary language. Be reasonable, not optimal. Optimal collapses when you're tired, scared, or tempted. Reasonable keeps working through flu season. Wealth is what you don't show. Optionality is the luxury you can actually spend. Every dollar that buys you time buys you better judgment. Every shiny purchase that taxes your runway buys you fragility and a new habit of needing applause. The game is not to have more, it's to need less before you play for more. Irrational exuberance, said Robert Shiller, and he meant story. Markets are gossip, governed by math. Prices are mathematics wrapped around narrative. Your industry is no different. People rarely buy your mechanism. They buy the story that life will feel safer with you installed. Give them a story that is audit-ready. Name the enemy, waste, opacity, weekend emergencies. Name your mechanism in plain words and show 3 receipts that would survive cross-examination. Repeat until you are the default explanation for why a certain problem doesn't ruin their Sunday anymore. Don't confuse that with peacocking. Veblen pointed out how often spending is a language of status. The trap is to answer in the same dialect. The counter-signal, the one expensive clients actually read, is stillness, on-time work, low drama, a calendar with boundaries, contracts with nouns, not adjectives. Quiet is a status symbol in rooms that matter because quiet predicts no surprises. The watch on your wrist impresses on Instagram. The absence of weekend emails impresses the COO. If incentives pull reality, Munger just wrote the scene you're living. Humans don't do what you wish, they do what you pay them to do. Design agreements where your partners, referrers, and teammates win exactly when you win, not before, not in spirit. Put the math on one page. Remove perverse incentives. If the only way someone gets paid is by shoving volume at you, they will shove volume at you. If your team only gets applause for heroics, you will cultivate preventable emergencies. If your client's boss only gets promoted for visible savings, show them savings on one slide. Make the honest thing also the rewarding thing. And now the lemon problem. Akerlof showed that when buyers can't tell good from bad, the bad drives out the good, because no one will pay for quality they can't verify. Spence replied, then send signals that are costly to fake. Translate this into your daily posture. Guarantees you can survive and will actually honor. Before-after evidence that a stranger can understand without a phone call. Named references who answer the phone. A definition of done so specific it can't be argued. The point is not theater. The point is to pierce uncertainty so price has somewhere clean to land. Keep it simple is not folksy wisdom when Gigerenzer says it. In messy environments, simple, well-tuned heuristics outperform ornate models. So write 3 if-then rules and run them without mood. If scope changes, the price changes the same day. If a request would damage sleep, it is either a no or a higher price. If you can't explain the win in one screenshot, you don't have it yet. Save the complexity for your internal craft. Keep the user interface spare. Markets are also a conversation. Deirdre McCloskey reminds you that exchange lives inside rhetoric, stories, metaphors, norms. Talk like a grown-up, no jargon trapdoors, no mystical frameworks, no moralizing. Respect your buyer by making it easy for them to look smart for choosing you. In the same paragraph, speak to human capital, your own and theirs. Gary Becker would tell you, skill compounds, but only if you convert it from private competence into public artifacts. Don't hoard your know-how in your skull. Externalize it. Checklists that rescue time, definitions that prevent politics, loom walkthroughs that make replacement possible. That's how your skill multiplies beyond your hours. Behind the spreadsheets, Ernest Becker whispers the thing you don't want to hear. Money is an immortality project. We reach for status, for legacy, for control, because the animal inside knows the clock is running. If you don't face this, you'll buy at the top to feel alive and broadcast success to quiet a private dread. If you face it, you will swap display for depth, sleep over spectacle, buffers over bragging, and your choices will get cleaner, calmer, better paid. Bourdieu would call that shift an exchange of capitals. Economic capital, social capital, cultural capital, symbolic capital, they trade. Your clean terms and quiet reliability accumulate symbolic capital in the circles that can move contracts. Spend it to build social capital with the people who sit near decision. Do not waste it chasing applause from people who cannot sign. It's an ugly sentence. It's also how careers stop being a lottery. Everyone is performing, said Goffman. There's a front stage and a backstage. Put your effort backstage, ops, checklists, service recovery, and let the front stage be concise and calm. Buyers don't want your production diary. They want the show to start on time and end without a fire. Let the drama live in your rehearsal, not in their week. Why do costly signals persuade? Ahmad Zahavi, because they're hard to fake. In your world, that means doing something expensive in attention. You build a tiny tool that saves your buyer 20 minutes and give it away. You publish a teardown that names the mess in your market and cleans it without snark. You show your numbers without the sugar. You could have chased likes. You chose to reduce someone's pain. People infer quality because you paid a cost to speak. Meanwhile, the mind tires. Herbert Simon said we're bounded rationalists who satisfice. Respect that when you design anything, you expect others to use. Fewer choices, clearer steps, smaller texts. If the easiest path leads to the outcome you want, the outcome will happen more often. This is not condescension, it's mercy for the human bandwidth you depend on. And when you set rules, make them small and keepable. Elinor Ostrom studied communities that avoid collapse by agreeing to rules matched to local reality, with enforcement that isn't theatrical but works. Apply that internally. Your SLA is something you can hit even on a bad week. Your quality bar is written down, not implied. Your penalties are real but proportionate. Discipline without drama is the sound of a system that survives. Bring all these voices into one room and they say the same hard thing. The rich are not always smarter. They're less available to panic, more legible to buy, and better placed in the river of other people's decisions. They've arranged their days so that the obvious move is the profitable move, and the stupid move is slightly inconvenient. They've chosen quiet over display so that no is always cheaper than yes to the wrong thing. They've practiced their lines so many times that when they finally name their price, they sound like weather, and the room, made of anxious primates, relaxes into paying them. You want this to be mystical. It is a handful of adjustments lived without flinching. You stop narrating and start showing 3 lines at the same time every week with a screenshot no one can argue. You stop asking for fairness from storms and start writing rules you obey when the wind rises. You stop negotiating with spectators and reserve explanations for buyers. You stop expanding scope to be liked and start being cruel once, finality, instead of a long, polite bleed. You stop signaling status with objects and start signaling status with no surprises. You stop gambling for resurrection and start placing small, asymmetric tickets you can sleep through. You stop hoarding your craft in your head and start leaving a trail of artifacts that make other people persuasive on your behalf. You stop spending to be seen and start spending to be calm. If you want the feeling of it, picture tomorrow's meeting. Everyone arrives slightly out of breath from their morning. Numbers fly. You don't rush into the space. You ask, what range were you expecting for an outcome at this level? Silence expands. People hate silence. They fill it with constraints and approvals and months that matter and numbers they did not mean to say aloud. Now the terrain is visible. You do not explain twice. You answer questions, not anxieties. You leave with a next step dated, not great vibes. Back at your desk, you send your 3 lines at 16:30 as always. You publish one spare artifact that rescues someone else's time. You put money where it compounds when you aren't looking. You go for a walk because the point of wealth is not to buy more things to manage, but to buy a nervous system that tells the truth even when fortune is in a mood. None of this makes you invincible. That isn't on offer. What it makes you is hard to break. Hard to break is what the room smells when you enter. Hard to break is what budgets follow. Hard to break is why, a year from now, you won't be begging the weather for softness. You'll be sailing in it, not because you're charmed or cruel or lucky, but because you finally took responsibility for the only 3 levers you ever had: how you look under pressure, how clear you are to buy, and where you stand when other people's decisions flow. That's the pattern. The psychologists mapped your reflexes. The economists drew the currents. Your job is smaller and heavier. Put your hands on the tiller and keep them there. Until price becomes a weather report you deliver and everyone else receives with relief.